Hi, welcome to season 2 of the After Party of When We're Not Hustling. I'm the producer, Emily Foster, always reminding you to like, subscribe, leave us a comment, follow us on everything you can find us on.
Yes, this is why Emily starts because she's very good at this. I'm Jessie Sage. I am the host of When We're Not Hustling, and I'm excited for season 2. We have a lot of cool things in store. We have guests lined up for months, and it's very exciting. And what we've decided to do for the after parties for season 2 is we have decided to have a different guest host every month. So for the month of July, my mom is here to talk to us about all of the episodes. So, Mom,
Hi, I'm Jessie's mom back again. Is this my third time? This
yeah,
is my third
there
time.
was your episode and
Yeah,
then the season 1 roundtable, and now you're going to be July's special guest.
Special guest. I'm very honored. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. And Sasha is all in.
Oh, Sasha.
And I'm very happy to be here. And of course, I listened to these episodes just recently, back when you sent them, and then recently again last night, just to freshen up. And it's really interesting. Get
Yeah.
really interesting and very, very different guests and
Yeah.
how they go through life and the
Mhm.
kind of energy they have. I mean, it was
Yeah.
I'm really happy to be here. This will be a good season.
That's what I love about the show is that you get so many different kinds of people and you think like, I don't know, I think in our culture we have like sex workers or these type of people. And then when you put like 3 of them together, you're like, oh no, they're not any type of
Oh,
people.
none of these two are the same, right? Right.
Different personalities, different demographics,
Yeah.
different like life histories. So yeah, it's really interesting. So we're going to start by talking about Aviva Ruse, who is a escort in LA, and she's originally from the East Coast, and she is also a stand-up comic, and you can tell. She's very amusing. This is our first stand-up comic that
yeah,
we've had on the show.
I believe it is.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
going to have Caitlin Bailey on, and she's also a stand-up comic. She's coming on
yeah,
later this season. But yeah, this is the first one, and it was very fun to talk to her.
that we know of. If our other guests are also stand-up comedians, they should reach out and let us know. But
Yeah.
they didn't talk about
Oh, you know who
that.
did? I take it back. Pucks talked about doing some like amateur stand-up
Oh,
comedy, didn't
that's
they?
right.
Yeah, they did.
Perhaps they did. I am often eclipsed with their repertoire. I would not be shocked if I forgot that they did stand-up comedy. And
Yeah.
if our audience is not familiar with Pucks Aplenty, please go check their episode out. It is amazing. And
Yeah.
you'll see immediately why I could forget that someone could do stand-up comedy because they're doing burlesque, they're doing music, they're doing fat con, they're doing all these different things.
Yeah,
So
I
right.
that's
know. I
possible. Yeah.
know.
But
I
like,
was so tired. And that has what has been resounding for me after every episode. You guys have to work so
yeah.
hard
Mhm.
behind the scenes work. Man, I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah,
It
it's
feels like
entrepreneurial stuff that's like,
yes.
so you don't just get nobody just gives you money. You don't
Nobody
just get
just
a
gives you
paycheck.
money. You never really clock in or out. I
Right.
mean, with all the drawbacks
Yeah.
with, vanilla jobs, there are times when you can just go home and you're home, right?
Yeah.
And everybody leaves you alone. I imagine you don't ever feel like there isn't something you could do.
Yeah, it's like being I grad school trained me for this.
Right.
Like being a
That's what made
grad
me think of
student.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because if we go back to like the episode that we did with PJ, episode 19, that was one
Yeah.
of the things that PJ talked about that was hard for them about my work. It was less like the work and more like, can we have some time that's not interrupted by your stuff? Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was the hardest part for them. So it's interesting that that keeps coming up in all of the interviews is how like much work people are doing. And it was funny because when I pitched this show to a lot of potential guests, and this is really indicative of, I mean, it turns out that if they scratch the surface, they have so many things to talk about. But a lot of people, their first response was, what do you mean? Like, I just work. Like, what else am I going to talk about?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm a workaholic. This
Yeah.
is what I do. And obviously it's very skewed by the fact that, and I always want to be cognizant of this, but it's very skewed by the fact that the very visible sex workers who are doing podcasts are ones that are like running successful businesses and have some time to do things like this. They are the ones that are like at the top of the game. I don't want to say it like that, but like
Yeah.
they're the
Yeah.
most
Sure.
visible, most successful
Yeah.
sex workers. And those people tend to skew toward working extremely hard. So like
Right.
it is not a balanced picture of what's going on with everybody, but it is still real. It's still a real thing for this group of people.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not exactly on topic here, but when are we ever? That's the delight of the after party. But you know, here's something that I noticed about myself early on. I was raised by an entrepreneur, so there was that example there. But
Yeah.
I went to work for other people, and I've stayed in the mostly vanilla. I guess, yeah, I've stayed completely in the vanilla jobs things, but
Yeah.
definitely bartending and playing music crosses some spaces. But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
well, we don't have to tell anyone about those. But yes, um, I found when I went to work for other people, I took it home with me. I did it
Mhm.
24 hours anyway. And it was actually my
Yeah.
reaction to working for other people that made me seek out working for myself. Always
Mhm.
on the side until my health issues, where then it was like, oh, thank goodness I've practiced so I can,
Yeah.
I
It's a good
still
thing I
got
know how to
these
do
side things
this.
to help with.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I really found most of my life, like I had those tendencies anyway. And I
Yeah.
actually fostered them going in there. And
Yeah.
I think about that sometimes. I'm like, does the work find us or do we find the work? Like when
Yeah.
it comes
Right.
to like what you're suited to and the kind of
Yeah.
person, like I've got
Well,
some
I think
friends that I
about that.
don't think
I've
would be
worked
suited to
for,
self-employment.
uh-huh. Self-employment brings like a certain breed, I think. Like I worked for
Yeah,
a company for 2.5 years and a high school for 2 years. And those are the only times that I ever had full-time jobs for someone else. 4 years. I did it
right.
for 4 years.
Out of
That
a
was
whole
all I
life of
could.
career, right.
My retirement
I've
is
got maybe 10,
non-existent.
but it's, there was always a lot going on around those things too. Like
Yeah.
it was one of,
Yeah. The other
yeah.
day, PJ had these words that came out of their mouth that I was like, what? They're like signing up for their benefits and they're like, well, now that I'm fully vested. And I was like, what? You're using like big people words. I don't know what you're saying.
Did you just
How did you learn those words? What do
did you
you
just university speak me?
Okay.
Were you wearing tights?
World we live in where PJ is using words like vested. Um anyways, yeah, so let's go back to Aviva. So her story, it was so interesting. So I've always been like in awe of comedians because first of all, I think they're so smart. Like you have to be
Mhm.
so smart to
Yeah.
look around, observe the world, and make it into bite-sized chunks that are like digestible to people to say very profound things without them noticing is what I think is the job of a comedian.
But also surprising enough to be funny,
Yeah.
because without that breaking of the pattern that makes a joke for us, then you're
Yeah.
just sort of a guru, right? You take
Yeah.
funny out of comedian, then you've got one of those. Here's the nature of the world in a short little package. It's
Yeah.
like I
Then you've
kind of
got
do that
us and
kind
we're
of
not funny.
philosophy work, but like also funny. Yeah.
Then you just have talking heads who are just saying things, which is what we do.
Which is fine too. But yeah, to add to that intelligence, they do that extra step
Yeah,
too. It's not,
because
it's like,
Aviva was talking about really serious things. She got her back like burned off
Yeah, I
by,
didn't
to the
understand.
bone.
happened? Was it a hot pad? Because the kid,
Yeah. So she went to get
Mhm.
liposuction and they put her on a heating pad on the surgical table and just forgot about it or set it up too high against her skin. It burnt like a patch of her skin off all the way down to the muscle.
I have never heard of that.
I know.
It was
How
really like,
did that
I
happen?
know what you mean, and I listened to that story so many times, and the
Yeah,
way that she told it, somehow I got out of the end of that story 3 different times without feeling like, um, the weight of that
I know.
Yeah.
because of how funny she was in telling it.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
And
feel like I'm
kind
feeling
of
the weight of her injuries more now.
Yeah. I mean, that's intense. Like she and what she was saying, she was joking about having like a nice butt, but what she was saying was she couldn't bend over for like,
She couldn't bend at her waist.
yeah, for a year or something,
Months
because
and
her
months.
skin was
Yeah.
so burnt off and tight. And I'm sure she had skin grafts and then surgeries to like fix that. But like,
So that's squatting to get
yes,
anything off of the ground with a straight back,
yeah,
like squatting down. And she
yeah.
turned it into this adorable butt joke. But
I
like
know,
the
and
very,
throwing
very
food at her
reality of
cat, like
that's
throwing treats at her cat because she
because she
couldn't
could
like reach
just
over. And that's intense. That's
it.
completely disabling.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
she mention that after
And
that she kind of spiraled down for a while after that,
Yeah, she
right?
did. She stopped
Yeah.
stand-up comedy altogether. She hasn't gone
Okay.
back to that.
Yeah.
She told me when she reached out, and I don't think she's gonna mind saying this, we just didn't say it in the podcast, that she had a lawsuit against, like a malpractice lawsuit, obviously, against the company, the doctor's office, and like that just settled. And so her lawyer said that now she's allowed to talk about it, but she wasn't allowed to even like talk about it up until recently, which is why she was like, oh, I'm gonna come on the story and tell my story now because I haven't done that.
right.
Yeah, so she had a really long drawn out lawsuit against them
Yeah.
too. And yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that. Like you go in for a cosmetic procedure and end up disabled for a while.
Yeah. It's unimaginable. Yeah. And
Yeah,
and it almost sounded too, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, almost sounded like she was in a pretty predatory environment. I mean,
yeah,
what's going on with that?
There
I
was
know.
definitely some upselling going on while people were under sedation or in intense pain,
Yeah,
which is
What is, I didn't
pretty
even know that,
brutal. I
yeah.
you know?
mean, I
My
was,
plastic surgeon did that
peripherally
to me, but
aware
didn't
of
sell
the.
me anything. Like when I was just like I was going in to get like a an augmentation and a breast lift, and she was like, while you're there, I was like in my surgical gown, and she was like, while you're there, do you want me to do lipo on your sides? Because then it will like sculpt everything. And I was like, how much is that going to cost? Like, I was like, I can't make a decision about this right now. And she's like, oh, I'll just do it while I'm there. And I was like, all right. But but the thing about that, and that was actually kind
Yeah.
of nice, I think, is that I didn't
Well,
have time
that's
to think
different,
about it
right?
because lipo was way harder to recover from than the surgery that I went
Mm,
into. It's way more painful. Like, that was what I
right.
remember. Like, but that doesn't matter. Like, it wasn't predatory because she was
That's
just
still a
like,
different situation,
it's totally
right?
different.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, I hope my husband doesn't mind me publicly sharing this, but he had to have a septum thing done,
Okay.
and it deviated septum. He had some kind of thing. He had a
Yeah.
nose thing that needed to be done, and he used to have a bump on his nose. And the whatever the nose guy is,
Yeah.
he was like, "Hey,
ENT
do
or
you want
whatever.
that?"
Shaved
He's
off.
like, "I'm gonna be in there anyway. Do you
Yeah.
want to shape your nose?" There was no extra charge. There
Right.
was no, it was
That's so
just,
different.
hey, I know humans and a lot of humans like this. I'm already there. It's nothing for me. And that
Right.
feels like similar to what your doctor said,
Yeah,
where
that's
it was like,
exactly what she
a
said.
lot
I
of
was
people
like,
come
because that was
back
my
for
first
this. I'm
concern. I was
already
like,
in
well,
here if you want it.
what's my
Right.
bill going to be? And
But
she's like, I'll
these
just do
people
it.
were
It's gonna,
selling her
yeah,
treatments,
right.
monthly treatments with a monetary attachment while she was under. And I
Right.
can tell you, I've been through quite a few surgeries, and when you are under, you are,
Right. Well, and the thing that was
you
really
know,
terrible too is like what didn't happen with my surgeon, and probably with Ben's either, is there wasn't like a judgment like your sides are too fat or your
right?
nose is wrong. Just like, do you
No,
want this
they
while I'm
called her the
there? Where
fattest
like she
person
was
in
being totally
LA.
nagged by the surgeon. Like,
Yeah.
Sorry,
Why?
which
I've
is
been to LA.
so
There's fatter
weird.
people.
Right. I thought that
And
was very
also,
weird.
who cares?
And you
It's
didn't see her, mom,
very,
because you only listened to the audio, but Emily and I did. This is not a fat woman at all.
no, this is a very thin woman. You would never look at this woman up. You would never even call her healthy.
Yeah.
Well, she's a healthy girl. There's
No.
those
Right, right.
body
She
types that
looks
are
like a
just,
woman
no,
who lives in Southern
uh-uh.
California and is fit.
She
Like,
looks like a beautiful blonde LA woman who is perfectly fit.
Man,
Like,
you
so,
do not get that mental picture by listening to her.
no,
You get the
no.
mental picture. I thought, oh, she's out in LA. It's very competitive. You remember what Southern
Oh
California
my
was like.
gosh.
It's kind
Yeah.
of brutal, yeah. And I thought, oh gosh, she's walking around at 250 pounds, but she wasn't. But she must have
mm-mm,
felt that
not
way.
even
So she
close.
was so,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
awful,
No, it was
awful.
really awful.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like amazing. But the story, I mean, the interesting thing about that is the story is less about what happened and more about um what it brought into her life, which was like
What
a
it brought
lot
into her
of
life. Yeah,
introspection. And I thought it was so interesting that she was like, oh, this behavior of this surgeon is familiar to me. Like, I have experienced this before
right.
by my parents. I've experienced it by my psychiatrist who've misdiagnosed me with all these things when I'm just an autistic woman, and, went and got the diagnosis for that. And it there's a lot of women right now, I feel like, who are getting autism diagnoses later in life, and I don't know how old she is, but I guess by the chronology that she gave, she has to be at least in her late 30s, who mid to late 30s. She's been around for a while, and I feel like she I know a lot of women in that age demographic who are suddenly getting autism diagnoses and being like, wow, okay, so I was told I have borderline, or I was told I
Mm.
have this or that. And I thought it was so
Bipolar is
interesting.
a really common one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because my emotions aren't regulated. But
Alcoholic,
guess what?
addict.
I
Hmm.
am trying to live in the world that's not set up for me. And so my emotions aren't regulated. And nobody's reading that as
Yeah.
autism because I wasn't a little boy who lined up trains. And I have a little boy who lines up trains,
Mm.
who
Sure.
like people read as autistic from the time he was 2, but women don't present and the girls don't present in the same way.
Look,
Yeah.
they didn't even give me trains to line up. Who knows if I would have lined them up?
Right.
I was given dolls.
Right. Yeah.
Didn't even get the trains to line up. But no, I don't know if I'm autistic, but it's definitely the
Yeah.
peer review that I have experienced over the last year of doing this show. I'm like, I really need to get back to that. Because what I've asked this question several times in my life, like, you guys kind of have a lot of that stuff. Like,
Mhm.
I know an unusual amount about some weird shit, like, don't you think that could be me? And the feedback that I get from everyone, even people who know me very, very closely
Yeah.
and love me very much, is like, no, you've got emotions.
Yeah.
And then I'm like watching all of these women who are like, yeah, it's all about your emotions.
Yeah.
But with boys, it's
It's
this other
different.
thing. Or
Yeah.
I hate boys and girls with when testosterone and autism and socialization of
Yeah.
male perceived beings
Yeah.
happens, it shows up like this.
Right.
When estrogen and
Yeah.
the socialization
Yeah.
of female perceived beings, it happens this way. And like, I
Yeah.
really wish I've been using yin and yang to
Yeah.
describe. I'm just like, the yang energy and the yin energy.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't want to get rid of that, but I also don't want to trigger anyone with just, I'm
Right.
not calling you a boy or a girl, but I'm
Yeah.
acknowledging that you've had these experiences because I
Right.
can look at you and tell that you've had them, like,
Yeah.
and that, but it's definitely on my mind. And I hear the relief in Aviva's voice and
Yeah.
other people who are just like, everything they thought was wrong was just this one thing. It was just this one misunderstanding that,
Well, yeah, and I
yeah.
think like it and I thought her joke was very funny about how she kept getting fired from restaurant jobs. She was like, I thought it was my job to tell people how to behave in a restaurant. Turns out it's not my job, but I feel like what happens with a lot of people who are undiagnosed is that they get blamed, like they people think that it's like a behavior problem, or a laziness problem, or you can't follow the rules type of problem, and it seems like she realized, like, no, I'm not having a problem, but like these rules are stupid. I can't
Yeah,
abide by them.
they don't make any sense.
Mhm, mhm.
Why would I do something that's stupid?
Right. Which is why I kept
Yeah.
getting, like, I had such a hard time, like, being employed by other people too. I'm not autistic, but, like, I do have, I don't know, other
ADHD? Yeah.
ADHD badly.
There's a neurospicy there.
Yeah, there's a neurospicy
That's how
there,
I've
and I
always
think that,
described it. I'm
like,
like, I don't know what it is, but something's not
yeah, but it's
typical.
just hard for me. I'm like, "Why are we doing this?" Like, I have a really hard time focusing on something that I don't understand, and
Yeah.
I felt like I had a lot of learning disabilities that went, like, unnoticed too, which I do think I have, but it just made it so I was like, "I don't understand what's happening, so I'm just gonna check out of this and, like, not do it."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard the term object permanence,
Yeah, mhm,
ADHD?
mhm.
Would you know how to
Hmm.
explain? I have it in my mind, but
Yeah,
I think it
so
kind of explains a lot about me.
yeah, object permanence, me too, because I actually saw a funny meme where this really pretty lady, probably in her 20s, was like, they say that absence makes the heart grow fonder, but I have ADHD, and 3 days after you're gone, I don't remember you. So like,
I
I
know.
was
I
like,
know.
yes, that's so true. Like, I am very into something, and then if it
Here and
disappears,
now.
I'm like, "Okay, next." Let's go. But object permanence is this, like, psychological theory that, like, you are able to, like, hold space for something even when it's gone, and so, like, babies don't have object permanence at the very beginning. So you have, if you walk out of the room, they think you don't exist anymore,
Right.
and
Okay.
that's why
Okay.
they, like, cry,
Yeah.
but then, like, sometime around, I can't remember the theory, 6 months or something, like, they know that if you put some
4 to
that's
8, it's
like
in there.
peekaboo,
Yeah.
peekaboo is, like, an
Right.
entire way to,
I'm coming back.
yeah, to train babies that, like, when something is out of sight, it doesn't mean it's
Yeah.
disappeared, like, I'm gonna put something behind my back, and then I'm gonna be like, "Oh, where is where is Thumbkin? Here I am, I'm back," or
Yes.
peekaboo, and now I'm back. But that's something that we have to learn, that, like, when something isn't right in front of us, it still exists, and when people aren't right in front of us, they still exist, and obviously people with, like, ADHD know that other people haven't fallen off the planet, but it's a matter of, like, what do you focus on? Like, your focus is on what's right in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
don't know.
explain why, because I would feel a lot of times I feel bad because I'm not great at keeping in touch. And
Yeah,
it doesn't mean I don't think about you. It
Mm.
doesn't mean,
yeah,
that I that these family and friends come through my mind all the time, but I don't know. It just, when
Yeah.
I heard that, I thought, oh, maybe that explains some, because I know that I'm not heartless or unfeeling, but
Right.
I don't want to pick up the phone.
I know.
And I figure you're pretty good. Somebody, you'd let me know if things are not.
No, I'm like that too. And it's really funny because when I hear people talk about getting together with their like high school friends, I'm like,
We're like,
I don't
what?
remember who I went to high school with. I couldn't name 5 people. What? What are you
Know it.
talking
I
about?
know.
That was 25 years ago. Like, I don't know. Maybe
I
more.
do it with like gifts and celebrations. Like if I'm away from my sisters or my mom or my friends on their birthdays, they get a text. Maybe if I'm really feeling sentimental, a call. Mind you, this is on their birthday. But if we're in the same place, they get gifts and we go out to dinner.
Yeah.
But it's not that I don't like you. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not mailing you things.
Yeah.
You want me to send you $50 and tell you what I was going to buy? I'll do that. But like,
Yeah.
there's something about distance where I'm like, that's just dumb. Like,
Yeah.
I'll make an effort with kids because I know kids care, but like, I haven't
Yeah.
bought my mom a gift when I wasn't in the same state as her in so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why, but if we're in the same state, it's like, great, let's go pick out a big old gift. Like, I don't know what that is, but there's a relation there where I'm just like, well, we're not in the same place. Why would I do
Yeah.
that? So,
I thought that was funny though, like what that
yeah.
the I don't know, thing that I saw I thought was funny because I was like, I totally relate to what this woman is saying. Like, I don't think long distance relationships work for people with ADHD. You're just like,
Think so.
Oh, I dated an
can't like
ADHD
be
man long
someplace
distance. We
else.
had to call several times.
Yeah.
There was like several communications a day. Like, hey, I'm still here.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise,
Remember
yeah,
me?
I
I don't want you to forget me because I've been
don't.
gone for 4 hours.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I think there's just so many different, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but getting back to her like story, I do think that it was really interesting to see her go through this like transformation of seeing what it looks like to be mistreated within the medical system and then like use that to figure out like what are the other ways in which that's happened to me and how can I get a better understanding of like
Right.
who I am.
I mean, to the point of losing her podcast,
Yeah.
community,
Yeah.
like all of the misdiagnoses in the past had led to all of these communities and opportunities and
Right.
experiences, and all of those were lost as well,
Yeah.
but still that happiness of,
Yeah.
aha,
I mean,
this.
something we didn't bring up that I think is really important in what she talks about is like AA culture.
Mhm.
And,
I
you
was
know,
so glad she's
yeah, not to be like gendered again, like you were saying, but like I've known so many women who have gone into AA who feel like it is not relevant to them at all, and the thing that I kept hearing over and over again, we talked a little bit to Seska about this too, I think, is that like making amends, for example, doesn't make sense for a lot of people who are socialized women to take responsibility for everything and everybody, and
they
that might be
already
one
took
of the reasons that
responsibility.
they're drinking in the
Yes.
first place. To be like the
Misplaced
reason.
guilt for shit that, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. What did you think about that, Mom?
Her take on AA.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought into it because I bought into it. I agree with it because I've heard that before, not
Yeah.
just by her, by many women. And yeah, I wasn't a bit surprised by it,
Yeah.
but same time, it sounds like she has a little trouble fitting in anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so somebody like her that has a little trouble anyway to go into that kind of, cultish environment. I
Right.
mean, I don't think AA is a cult, but I mean, there's certainly a pattern and an expectation and a
Yeah.
groove to it, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I wasn't surprised. And it was kind of sad to listen to her, as funny as she was.
Yeah.
Just the struggles
Mhm.
were so deep and so long,
Yeah.
well, time wise. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like she had a rough 6 months.
Yeah.
I
No.
think she had
Yeah.
a rough several years, and then she
Yeah.
was reading off like her diagnosis that she's autistic and then borderline and then ADHD and this and that. And I thought, gosh, we just trying to struggle through those labels,
Right.
and which one is true? I mean, it's not till you get much older, I think, that you realize that so much of what everybody tells you isn't true,
Right.
or maybe doesn't work
Mhm.
for you.
Right.
And where a professional or whoever in her life was telling her, oh, you're this and you're that,
Right.
without any follow through really or support. I don't know. It just felt like a heavy burden to me,
Yeah.
that she was fighting,
Mhm.
social constructs or expectation or
Right.
whatever it was she was fighting, labels, and then fighting this alcoholism. And she admit, alcoholism, what, she lost her podcast and she lost several things when she
Yeah.
was in sobriety,
Mm.
she said.
Right.
So
Well, she said that she just didn't identify it with.
Well, when she stopped, the podcast was for borderline women in recovery.
Yeah.
oh
So
So
she's
she
like,
left she
she
left
didn't.
the recovery culture. She didn't necessarily, we don't know if she went back to drinking or not, but she left recovery culture
okay,
Yeah.
and
okay,
also rejected that diagnosis and was like, actually, I'm just autistic, it turns out.
And so I
And
gotcha.
can't
so
run
then
the show anymore. Yeah.
that had to separate from being, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think like what I hear
So it
in her
was actually not, it's not like she lost it to, to going back to the bottle. It was like she
yeah.
lost it to finding the right
Okay. Well,
diagnosis
that's a
or diagnosis. Yeah.
good clarification, Emily.
Yeah.
It really, I didn't know she didn't know necessarily she relapsed, but she said something about her sobriety. But right, she had changed her thoughts on what sobriety is, didn't
Yeah.
she?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yes.
I think
Yes.
it was really interesting because oh wait, I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something about that. But oh, this is what I was going to say. I think her story points to a lot of people's stories, which is that like we tend to in Western culture think that medicine is like some airtight science, and it is not an airtight science, and people have these like consolation of things that are happening with them either in terms of like mental health or physical health, and doctors and psychiatrists are like, huh, this you know,
Right.
we have to
Well,
diagnose.
And as she pointed out, she's like, how does my body and spirit know if a doctor prescribed it? And there's that aspect of it too. It's like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's all just, man, I've said it before, it's from my favorite cartoon. We're just monkeys singing songs. And it seems like we're just flinging shit at the wall half the time. Like this.
oh,
Right.
That includes your doctors and your lawyers and your judges and all of
I
your
know.
super trained people. It's like,
yeah.
Right. I think we feel safe. I think we feel safer when we're like, these experts know something and they might know some things, but they don't know
I
everything.
mean,
Yeah.
even the worst medical doctor alive right now, the absolute worst of them, least trained, knows more about medicine than I do,
Yeah,
even
absolutely.
with if it's my special interest, because I have not been through any training. Like,
Right,
there's
right.
at least that, it's like,
Right. They know
no,
some things, but we can't
at
assume
some
that,
medical school.
yeah, that they know everything. I
They're
mean, I
still
put a husband through
humans. They're
medical
still
school,
doing
so
their
I'd like to
best.
think they do something because I sacrificed my life for it.
Right.
But
Not that I'm
It's a
bitter.
lot of
not that I'm bitter.
schooling.
Every
Jeez.
once in a while, though, after we were split up, I would call him and I'd be like, so I have this question, blah, blah, blah. And he'd be like, yeah, that's not something that I do. And I would be like, why did we send you there? Did
Well,
they
then
teach
go
you
figure
anything?
it out. I didn't spend 12 years sacrificing for you to not know this.
I know we're not married anymore, but I was there and you studied something. Give me something. No, but it's I think her story is very extreme, but I think it's a story that a lot of people deal with as they try to like understand what's going on with themselves.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's like probably a good
Yeah,
place to end this episode.
I
I
just
think
want,
so.
I think what you said at the very end was a really good idea, Jessie, because about her comedy.
Mhm.
And also, I can't imagine how rough comedy is and how
Oh
rough it
yeah.
is. You just it takes a lot more
In
nerve than,
LA.
oh yeah, in LA, right. And anywhere, yeah. but that she could just go to open mic night. I don't think she had thought of that.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
still a way of enjoying. It's like dancing in your living room, even though you're not the prima ballerina anymore. I mean, you could
Yeah.
still,
Yeah,
so
engage in it in a way that like feels good and doesn't
right.
feel competitive. I thought it was really interesting too what she said about beauty standards in sex work versus beauty standards in like comedy, and that there was more pressure within comedy to fit a norm than there is like in the sex
Yes,
industry.
I
That
did too.
was
I was really surprised by that.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
that makes
I'm
sense
not
to me. That
yeah,
it
I'm not
hits something
surprised
really
because
clear.
I'm
I'm
in
like,
this industry and I know that there's everybody likes like somebody likes everything, and there's so much more flexibility within sex work than there is in the broader culture. And I think that all the time. Like I've said this before, but I always feel like I wish that most regular women felt like could experience what it felt like to be in the sex industry for like a week, because I will sit at a coffee shop and I'll hear women at a table next to me and they'll all be like 5 perfectly fit, beautiful
Yeah.
women talking nonstop about the diets that are working or aren't working, and well, I just got to lose
Oh,
this much weight and blah blah blah, and they feel all this pressure. And I'm like, it doesn't matter.
right.
Meanwhile, their
Like,
husbands are calling you.
yeah, I'm just like, I don't know why I wasn't gonna say the quiet part out loud, Emily, but thank
Sorry, I'm sorry.
you.
We're talking about random people, and a
Right.
lot of
There's no
random
names
hard-bodied
here.
women have, you know.
Yeah.
No, I just think that like people like so many more things than what we're fed,
Oh,
and that
yeah.
so
Yeah.
many more. And that when you're like in this culture and you think that Hollywood is all there is, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it just like it's it's sad to me. I'm like, I wish that people could just like be who they are. For there's two parts of this. I wish like women could just be who they are without trying to control their bodies and their lives in such intense ways. And I wish that men could just like what they like, like, and this is
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
what the difference between like sex workers and people just out and about is civvy women, is that like a lot of people use sex work and sex workers to experience what they're really attracted to, but feel like they're not allowed to be attracted to, and it seems like this whole problem could be fixed if people would just stop. Like, what if we just
Just let it go, man.
let it
God.
go? Just be who you
we
are
we
and
just
like what you
stopped
like
it.
and just
Yeah.
be. That would be fine.
That would be great. I'm
Yeah.
a proponent.
Yeah.
Jessie for president.
No thanks. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
they even have the power for that, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's a good place too. And where when you were not hustling, the after party. I'm Jessie Sage.
I'm Emily Foster. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, leave us a comment, all the things you do to support us. Thank you.
And
And
I'm Jessie's mom.
hanging out for all of
Hanging,
July.
just hanging out, eavesdropping.
Yeah.